founder of Artsy Window. My name is Kiara Cristina Ventura, and today we're here with Melanie Luna,
Hola.
Who's a young artist that I've been watching, and we've been talking for some time now. And I'm so happy to be here in Moving On by Larissa Negrón and Sabroso's Projects, who invited us in to have this beautiful talk. So thank you guys so much for opening this space to us. So
Dime.
let's get into this talk. So yeah, can you just introduce yourself? What do you do? What do you work with? What are your practices? What are your mediums? Let's get into it.
Okay, one at a time. Hola, my name is Melanie Luna. Some people call me Mel Luna. I am from the Dominican Republic, and I live in Crown Heights now. I'm a painter, and yeah, I'm a person. First, artist second.
Human.
Human first, for sure.
And can you tell us a bit about your artistic practice? What are the mediums that you work with, and yeah, what do you do?
So it's primarily really studio oriented. I think I black out when I work. When I'm outside of the studio, I know that I'm still technically working in my head, but when I get to the studio, I black out. So I'm just throwing stuff on the ground, I'm rolling on my paintings, I'm destroying a lot of my work, I'm gifting a lot of my work, and I love that. That's my favorite part. And I primarily paint with acrylics and alcohol inks on gesso, and that's the textures that I don't think I discovered it, but it's this marbly, like those Instagram moms that do the marble paintings.
Yeah.
I screenshotted that, and I was like, they're onto something, but they won't take it that extra step.
Yeah.
So I just took from that, and then that's what inspired the marbly effect. And when I first saw how it looked like meat, I was like, holy sugar, I like this. And so it went from there. Before that, I worked on reflective mylar, and that was an obsession I had for a little while. And that was just an excuse to see myself work, and like always constantly wanting to make a video of me working because I was reflected on it most of the time.
So before, I really want to get into your use of mylar and also these beautiful meaty figures in your work.
Delicious
Delicious. I'm vegan and I'm like But before we get into your unique figures and mediums, I want to ask you about your upbringing. So I know you came here to the US as an immigrant, as a child. Can you talk about that transition from DR to New York?
Oof. That's a very difficult question to ask because I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Really, I was just making a joke earlier. I'm 11 years old. I'm 23, but I'm really 11 years old. I moved here when I was 12 in 2009, and that was an insane trip. I mean, it's so weird because I saw this is a melting pot. There's a lot of people here, especially New York City. I'm happy we chose New York City and not like Ohio or something. I don't know. But I remember thinking, wow, I just saw my first ginger. I'm a ginger now. So I saw my first ginger, my first Asian, my first Indian. And I was, wow, underneath all of that, we look exactly the same. The eyes to me are like a little bit more touchy, but we look exactly the same. And that influenced a lot of my work today. I want to find a very generalized formula or answer to the human experience in a way. But it was a very interesting transition. It's still very difficult to answer that question. I'm still living it.
Yeah.
And I learned the language really fast. I got bullied this one time in class. I was like, oh, you don't know English. And I remember thinking, crap, that's the first thing I gotta master. I have to master English. And I learned it so fast. And here I am, like, even struggling now with speaking Spanish at times. Yeah, so hence why I'm very scatterbrained.
No, but I think it's super interesting how you came here from DR, and then you looked around everyone around you, and then you found similarities between everyone and how they look. And I think I think that's why your work really strikes me, because a lot of artists put or like dissect their identity in their work, or they think about how people perceive them. And they're just like, is this whole study about identity? But then in your work, it's kind of like you're doing the opposite. You're like, how can I strip identity? How can I abstract identity? You take away the hair, the eyes, the flesh, and then what are you left with? You're left with a body. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, when you look at your work, you know, I could tell this is maybe a feminine figure. It's a
self-portrait, actually. That's me.
Really? Exactly. See, I wouldn't know that. You know what I mean? I think that's what's so interesting. So what are your thoughts, I guess, on identity? And what are you trying to say by stripping the flesh? And what have you learned by doing this practice?
I can hit the hay at night much easier. You go to sleep better when you don't give yourself heavy expectations of, I am a Dominican artist, this is what I make, mm-hmm. you know, follow me or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, you know, actually in college I had a professor once ask me, why aren't you making Dominican paintings? Why aren't you making paintings about your past? And I will get to it one day, I know it. Mm-hmm. But right now I am teething and salivating as a baby. I am putting things on my mouth. I'm just crawling and I don't even know what I'm touching. And that freedom makes my work better, and I go to sleep at night much easier.
I love that.
When you walk this earth, really just no expectations, I am myself, that's it, whatever. Mm-hmm. It makes things a lot easier, if that makes any sense.
Like you're still learning and exploring and experimenting. Mm-hmm. That's like, I just got this dog.
You got a dog?
Yes.
You got a dog.
I got a dog. I got a puppy. A pup. And she eats everything off the floor. And at first I was like, oh my God, like why is she sniffing everything? Why is she picking random things up? And then I looked it up, and it's because like Google is saying like the dog, they explore the world with their mouth and their senses of smell. Babies. They just want to see like, how does this feel? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Teething, when baby's teeth, it hurts sometimes, but they have to do it. Yeah. So in a way, I wouldn't say it's very painful, but the fact that I don't know much and I'm okay with not knowing much, it is a little painful because I feel I lost a part of myself when I moved to this country. A little bit, you know? I'm the middle child of 3 girls, and I am the most, like, I am so far, you know? It's like I don't know what clicked in my mind. It definitely moving to famous New York City, you know, seeing the skyline, it's like, whoa, I'm in here. Like in Disney Channel, I was super influenced by that, and I was like, wow, I'm in here now. I don't know, it's still kind of painful in a way. But like I said earlier, I will find that, and I always call it this. It's like you're sensing for air or the breeze. To me, that is what I'm like kind of looking for in my art, and I know that kind of relates to my identity a little bit, but that will come with time. I hope.
Yeah. So where are you right now in your practice? Because I know we did a studio visit. And of course I saw these meaty figures, but I also saw some sciencey stuff.
So if we can go to the next slide.
Yeah.
It gets really, let's skip this one too.
Okay. Yeah, let's get here. Let's get into it.
Hence why I am over there. I'm like just extremely different from my family. This painting feels like I did not make this. I swear to God. I don't know what happened, but oh God, it's so uncomfortable, but I'm open to it because it's okay not to know, you know? It's okay not to know. And this is Osama Bin Laden getting an eye exam. And when I made this piece, originally it was a meat girl sitting on the chair, but I mixed the wrong paint and she started peeling. And it was so weird. She just peeled completely in one piece.
It's so weird. The meat was peeling instead of the skin.
Yeah, and I took that as a sign. I was just like, okay, no more meat people. I gotta go from there. Another thing, sorry if I'm very, very scatterbrained. No. Not sorry. But my style has been changing every 6 months. I've been noticing, and when she peeled away, I was like, holy sugar! This means I can't make any more meat people, and so I wanted to do the opposite and bring flesh in there, or I guess Osama Bin Laden. He was in a Times magazine, and I really was blacked out that day, sober. But I mean, I just cut him up and I just glued him there, and that was it. And then it just felt right, and I wanted to keep going. Of course, we can talk about this for days. It's really an uncomfortable piece at the moment. It's unfinished, as you can see, but I've gotten a lot of feedback from this piece. I had an individual tell me their father was a spy and an eye doctor, but he didn't know he was a spy until he passed away. And that they say that Bin Laden must have been corrupted in a sense.
Yeah.
It led to something. So this piece is almost like before anything ever happened. I see it as that. And also, I would like to get a question from this piece if anyone is listening. Next piece.
Yeah.
This one's really, really interesting. It's my favorite, actually. This is Moderna, a pharmaceutical company currently looking for COVID-19 vaccine. And this piece in particular, I think I was a little bit more present with it because I was thinking more about the composition and the colors. But this is trial 1. They're testing on animals at the beginning. He's smiling. He's like, okay, we know exactly what we're doing. But in reality, I have a theory that they will not be the one finding the vaccine, and they knew it all along. Anyways, I dabbled in the stock market at the beginning of quarantine, and I did pretty good, and I did pretty bad. Don't do it. But anyways, I have a feeling that pharmaceutical companies at the beginning, they knew that they had a open room, a space to get more money, you know? And it crashed recently, so it's been a little weird. So this piece is a little, I don't know, next piece.
Responsive to the times.
Yeah. Hence my scatterbrain. These pieces are so weird. They make me really uncomfortable. I said I could go to sleep at night. These pieces don't make me go to sleep.
The science. I can't. With the science.
Yeah, the
scientists in them.
They are very uncomfortable, and they just don't feel like me. Like when you look at those, do you think of me as the artist? I look at them.
I'm not surprised. That's not me. I'm not surprised.
This one's a little bit me,
Yeah.
It reminds me of this donkey in my great-grandmother's house. And there's a picture of me and my sisters, 3 girls on it, and my oldest is falling from the back. She's like falling, we're all holding on to her. And I just wanted to paint that, and I have to paint my sisters and I. So this one is a little intimate, wow. I haven't brought my sisters in there yet, so let's not.
Yeah. But it's based on a photo.
This one is actually my imagination. This one is. But when I bring my sisters in myself, I'm gonna have to use the photo. That's gonna be really uncomfortable. And like I said earlier, it's really difficult for me to bring my past. Family, I can cry. That's my kryptonite. I can cry.
Yeah. Do you think?
Any second, I can
Do you
cry.
think that you'll ever get to that place where you can do more intimate work like that? Like portraits of your family, or even, I don't know, meat bodies of your family?
I will do meat bodies of my family, but I wouldn't paint them, how they look,
Yeah. Is it too, realistic?
If I wanted to depict them, I would just take a picture. But if I wanted, I am curious to see how they look underneath. Not that I will ever truly find out, but... if I wanted to depict them, I would just take a picture. But even then, I don't know, I always have this fear that once I depict my family, I will feel so weak in a way, if that makes any sense. That's one. This one's even funnier. This is an archaeologist arguing with a security guard. He's like, why aren't you letting me touch them? He's like, no, someone bought them already. They're going to a museum. So hence where that's going. We can talk about that for days. Next. Is there any more after this one? I think that the girls fighting.
Oh, that was earlier. This one. Yeah.
Yeah, this one's really uncomfortable too. But this is actually the second of the series of the Meet Girls, and they're basically just fighting. That's pretty much it. But this was the first time I brought the breasts with the fat on it.
Yeah.
You know, I was trying to follow anatomy. Right now, I would like to actually really research anatomy and get deeper into, you know, where, cause with portraits, and I told you, if I could, I would love to paint an exact portrait of you, but without skin. Very difficult though.
I still be cute.
Well, you got them high cheeks, yeah, of course. But with the materials I use, gravity does its thing. I believe the studio come back the next day and the paint would have flown into the other direction. You need perfect flatness and stillness for the paint to just dry and stay there. So that's gonna be actually a challenge for when I tighten up my wrist. I always see it as right now as an artist, I am up to my elbow. You know, some artists are fingers, some are wrist, and then some are elbow, and some are arms. The ones that the arms are
big work.
And then some may take it further and use their whole body. You know? I'm stuck at my elbow at the moment. And
so you only use from here to here.
Like that movement of just, I'm tense still, you know, but I want to go back to my wrist. That would be more stillness, you know?
More detail.
More detail, yeah. I will have to take a pause, really.
Yeah.
I'm so...
Yeah. So I want to go more into how you make work, because you described like coming into the studio and you black out. What do you mean by that? And I don't know. I mean, for me, like just outside looking in and seeing how you're talking about your work and your process and what you bring into your work, it just seems like you come into the studio and it's like a playground almost, or like at least like, I don't know, I'm imagining things in your head, and then you're like,
that's a very beautiful way to put it. It is a playground. It's all happy, it's all good. It's a playground. Yeah. And I think most of the time I get there and I take a nap, and then maybe I start working, maybe I don't do anything at all. Yeah. But I go there not knowing what I'm gonna do. I tell myself I'm gonna touch this painting, and I end up not touching it. When I tell myself, okay, you just have to show up. Just show up and sit there and look at your stuff. That will sometimes influence which pieces I actually end up touching. And most of the time I start new ones when I feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing today. I have to start a new one. Finishing is actually very difficult for me. Yeah. Very difficult. But the blackout part, and it goes back to another question you asked, how did the transition feel when you moved to this country? I don't know how I'm here today. I was gonna go to law school. I don't know how I ended up making art, and how I have, I guess, the wrist or the elbow. I don't know how that happened. And so I go to the studio and I'm like, whoever possessed me, yes, keep going. What else? What are we doing today? Let's go. You know? Yeah. And then I go into the outside world, the real world, where I put myself together. Let's go. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm an artist. Nice. My art is like not, you know, whatever. But I guess I will continue to call it that blackout, because it just doesn't make any sense. I shouldn't be here. It's weird. You know, I had a professor make fun of me about not knowing Picasso, and I was just like, my naiveness is my strength. The fact that I don't know anything about this just makes it much better. Exactly. You know? Exactly. You don't need a million degrees and this and that to be like, oh, I'm a professional at this. I feel like as long as you're passionate and you know that that's what you want to do, then you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So I don't agree with what you saying, like, oh, I don't belong. What did you say? That I don't belong. It's just, I'm just still confused with the things I'm able to make. Yeah, yeah. Are you confused, I guess, by this, like, position of you
like being able to have a studio and have paint and like have like a freedom to make?
Oh, for
is
sure.
that what it is?
It's a privilege. And then my parents are just like, what are you doing? You know? It definitely is a privilege. But on top of that, and I'm strictly talking of color, shapes, and composition, painting, it's a weird, it's just a window to a whole other world, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time I look at art, you know, there's a detachment nowadays with art. And my goal, especially, and this is why I strip my identity away from it, I want people to actually relate to it or not get it, but just be like, this is something's going on. And like I said, it's that breeze. And I don't even know what the fuck that is, but I'm trying to look for it. And I guess that's what I want.
Yeah,
And every artist she'll definitely look for that. Yeah. You know?
So I want to speak about the viewer experience, because this is something that we talked about, and we had a really dope studio visit, because this is like, I mean, I was telling you, like, I was like, sometimes I go to studio visits and I'm about my business. I'm like, let's do this, blah, blah, blah. But it's also depending on, like, the artist's energy. And, like, you know, like, how is their day going? Or what are they thinking about? What space are they in? But I also really like the studio visits where I really get to, like, we get to, like, bounce questions off of each other and, like, be like, and you were like, da, 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 and I was like, maybe you should think of this, or, you know, and we were talking about, how, like, when people look at art, they're like, oh, there needs to be a certain message here. Like, it needs to be something direct. And then in your work, you have these scenes, but she was like, oh, well, you know, there's not something specifically happening here. Like, there's not a certain one story happening here. But the scenes that she creates is more from, like, the imagination and activating the imagination of the viewer. So can you get more into that, of, like, what kind of experience do you want the viewer to have with your work when they're looking at
when I met that individual whose father, in comillas, was a spy. I don't know about that story, but it sounded like it was true. I liked that I was explaining this piece really briefly, and I left a void for him to fill in the gap. Yeah. And that void is what I want people to at least figure it out in a way, for them to pretend that they made the painting and they know exactly what's going on. And so the Mylar pieces, those I can see, even though I have a hard time talking about them at the moment, doesn't mean I will never figure them out. And they come within dreams sometimes. It's so weird, the timeline of stuff. But that void, I just want people to figure that out for themselves. So the Bin Laden piece, I'm sure, people who like conspiracy theories and all of that, they can go on for days. Yeah. So that is what I like. I want to hear them talk about it. And sometimes I figure out the paintings by them. They help me figure it out. Yeah. Yeah. And like that's the best part about it.
Yeah. I look at this piece and I'm like, oh shoot, it's probably like a fight outside a bar or something. Someone stole someone's purse or drink, you know?
Yeah, but girls don't fight with fists though. So that's different.
Maybe they were all like professional fighters.
There's
some boxers.
Right? And then the yellow lines almost feels like, even though it's exaggerated, because I know there's only 3 or 4, looks like a ring.
It
but
does.
In the void, it's empty.
Yeah.
I made a joke when I first made this. I was like, oh, these are meat girls fighting for the X and Y chromosome. And I didn't really get it, and then people told me don't name it that, and I was like, why not? And then I forgot about it, and I'm glad I just brought that back to my mind. Doesn't mean I'll title it that. I don't know. Titles are weird too. Yeah. I don't know. They're hard to title. Okay, we go to the Bin Laden piece.
Oh yes.
Like I need to figure this out. Like let's go. Let's figure this one out. Seriously, like what the heck is going on here?
I like how you could see it's unfinished, but you could still see the seated figure behind the blue figure.
You know when you're standing, the projector, doesn't do this piece justice. When you stand in front of it, you see your reflection.
Yeah.
So you're either behind Bin Laden and doctor as the nurse or whatever, or you're in front of it. So you live in two worlds. And sometimes I've noticed that my reflective pieces, that reflected world is the world I want most of the time. And it's hard to paint because you're bringing a physical paint on it and you kind of block it in a way. Yeah. But also let's pretend you're not even being reflected and you're a vampire. Like who is that person and how are they viewing that piece? I don't know. I mean, like I said, the projector doesn't do this piece justice.
Because of the mylar.
Yeah, these have to be experienced in person, actually. And if we can we go to the pharmaceutical company, Moderna? With this piece, again, with the reflection, you're reflected behind the table and you're in line to basically get that Band-Aid or that shot. I mean, who knows? Yeah, but you're also in front of the painting. And you're sort of seeing that happen. And I guess with this piece, I would like to spark a conversation with what's happening currently with Corona. Yeah. And what will happen after a vaccine is found and distributed, and how to go about that.
And how will the world act?
And that would be what's it called? A commonality? A thing everyone can relate about. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I think so. But that's another goal in my work. I want pieces that you can just relate. Everyone can relate to it. Have you been to a diner once and seen a map and you see little push pins on certain cities and you're like, oh my god, that's my city. Someone went here from my city, and you relate right away. Something as simple as that. I kind of see art in that way, maybe not as geographical as a map or something.
But that's also what you're trying to do with the mylar and the reflective.
And meet people, because we look exactly the same.
I also want to... So looking at the backgrounds of your work, they're usually like abstract or they're the mylar. Why don't you paint a realistic environment in your work? You know what I mean?
There's a tension with my canvas work and my mylar work. And I brought the canvas work after I played with mylar for a little while because I felt that I needed to make work that will outlive me, in a sense. Not that the mylar wouldn't outlive me, but we'll find that out. Yeah. But that tension, I don't know. Sometimes I exaggerate and say I'm two different artists when it comes to those pieces. But I have a extreme short attention span, having to focus on the background and then bring the figure forward. That lag of thought that I have kind of messes up my timeline. I don't know if that makes any sense. I there you go. Mylar looks flat and perfect. I could just do this, and that, or a flat black background with the yellow lines, and then bring the figures forward. But that's a good question, actually. I kind of would like to take a pause and then kind of focus more on the background.
Yeah, I mean, it goes with a similar conversation with identity and abstracting the identity, and then you're also abstracting the environment, because once you put a specific environment in the work, then that's kind of going into play with identity, right? Let's say if you have a figure and you're painting like a New York City street sign, you know what I mean, and you put that in the back, then people already know, like, oh, that's probably a New Yorker, or that, then there's a conversation between place and figure.
You've just inspired two beautiful pieces in my mind. If I ever get to do them, goddamn. Okay. Imagine you were either born in a hospital, and you know how they say the light at the end of the tunnel could be the light at the hospital when you're being born? Sort of that kind of background with a meat baby, or you were born in an ambulance, that's a whole other thing, or you were born in a plane, that's a whole other background. But I don't know, New York City settings or Dominican settings, not my thing. Yeah. I mean, doesn't mean I will never do it though.
Right now, at least. Alrighty.
I did get a brick background, like just brick wall, but I haven't touched it. It's been a while.
That could go into I guess an urban setting.
Damn, the fact that we have to overthink that, it's difficult.
You can also abstract the brick somehow.
I could fill in the, I like that.
See, this is what a studio visit looks like.
My mind.
Yes. So I have 2 more questions for you, and then we're going to open it up to the crowd. I hope you guys have your questions ready. Okay, so I've been asking almost even if I'm like doing an interviewing an artist for like a magazine or anything, I just feel like this needs to be shared, especially like the time that we're in right now. So when you feel like you're being challenged or something, your day isn't going your way, what do you tell yourself? Like, what are your mantras or what's something that you say or do to just try to pick yourself up or, make yourself feel somewhat grounded?
Really, my art is my anchor that keeps me together, because I could be very turbulent sometimes. I tell myself, okay, today was a difficult day, but tomorrow will get better. Just touch this previous painting you haven't touched in 2 years. Or destroy it or something like that. Sometimes that can help me. But that's a very difficult question, because lately I've been going through really, weird times. I can't stop staring at that piece, I'm sorry.
The bananas?
Gorgeous. No, right there. Bathroom scene.
Yeah.
You will probably been taking a bath or something, but that's a difficult question to ask, Kiara. The times are really weird, and I am, a lot of people are in limbo, and I'm in limbo, and it's just, I will read a history book. I'm telling that myself, I just made that shit up right now. I'm telling myself right now, I'm gonna read a history book, and I'm gonna see that timeline and make it, and realize that, okay, it's not that effed up. My dad was born 2 years after World War II ended. No, I'm sorry. He was born when World War II was about to end, and I was like, holy shit! It was the fact that was happening, even though he was a toddler, is insane.
Yeah.
Difficult times do come, so I will tell myself to read a history book and to sort of get a generalized timeline of things, and that things do get better or worse. We'll figure it out.
Okay, I lied. I have 2 more questions. That was 3 questions. Who are some artists that you feel inspired by right now?
Federico Solmi. And I say this because this individual will make the history books. And he's a very awesome guy from Italy who migrated to the United States, no background in art in any way, and just something click. And I relate to that click in a way. So, and I say he's gonna make the history books because he makes really uncomfortable work that most people be like, why are you making this?
Yeah. And
he's like, completely ignore me. I'm not the art, that's the art. And that detachment is what I like. So, and then Royal Harmon, I really like his pieces. His map paintings are very, very nice. And Christian Retz van Minnen, he makes really grotesque, surreal pieces, and he just has that discipline that I like. So by the way, I say my favorite artists because there's little things I want from them. Like their way of seeing the world or their discipline. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And where do you see yourself going?
Home. Damn, I fudge. I have to go home. and not my Crown Heights home. Mom, Dad, I will go home. Let me get my COVID test first. And I will go home. I have to go home, yeah. That's part of that turbulent side. Look, I'm about to cry. Fuck, man. But that's part of why I've been turbulent lately. I have to get home. I've been far away.
You've been traveling.
Way too much, seriously. Like I actually have to go home and go to sleep.
Yes.
And eat a home cooked food. Oh.
What kind of home cooked meal though?
My mom, you know how they say it's poor people food, but like white rice with a fried egg?
Oh, yeah.
Actually, there's another name to it.
That slaps. It's so good. It's what food?
Cuero.
Cuero.
Yes.
I'm
love
done.
it. I want that. That's what I want. Una batida de lechosa. Oh. But like with a bunch of sugar in it. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, batida de lechosa.
All the way sugar.
That's pretty much it. And see my sisters. Oh my god. I hope they're not watching. But it's okay.
and I lied about how many questions I had. But yes. What advice would you give to young artists?
You are running this race exactly at your pace. You are exactly on time. You will get there exactly on time. Stop rushing shit. And I'm telling myself this too. Because damn, you're on time. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful lap and you're exactly on time. You know?
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
So any questions you guys have for Miss Meluna? Nina.
Okay. I really like the blackout thing with your work. Hearing you speak, it seems to me that you're fully aware that you have these two identities inside of you. One from adolescence before the States and one during adolescence during your upbringing and so forth. Do you think that perhaps what you're seeing in your artwork and on paper is those two identities fighting for dominion over your body, and that's where you kind of go somewhere and then you see your work, you understand the consensus, but you don't know who created it. So do you think that's probably
Noted. That's noted. I definitely don't want any of them winning. And nah, if one of them wins, that's a difficult thought actually.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's okay not to know, right? But I definitely don't want any of them winning. I guess I want to find that third. Who's that third, right? And go just get older and just find that third. And that's me, I guess.
Yeah.
essentially?
You know, yeah. And maybe bring about those sides in some of the pieces, but not completely letting them win. That would be, I would lose something there. You know, I think we all have many, many sides of ourselves, you know? And yeah, like I'm about to make 12 years next year in the country, and I tell myself, let me go somewhere else for 12 more years and learn a whole new language and see if I can struggle again and see if I can find something else, you know? But then again, my answer is I'm running away kind of answer. And that's a whole spiritual thing that it's extremely difficult to find, you know? But I don't think I'll ever find it, and that's okay. But I don't want any of them winning. Whoa. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it goes to like, because to leave that door open for, I guess, the next version of yourself to come. I feel like that's also a conversation about like we all have like an inner child in us, right? And that inner child had desires and was questioning things and loved this type of food and that movie and, you know, had that identity. And that inner child is still in us. But as a person, I guess us in our 20s or anyone else in whatever age you are in, I feel like we all have that that inner battle within us, like that inner child that is still growing.
I think it's on Kanye West's Power song. I'm fighting for my inner child's custody, and I've always related to that because I'm very childlike, and I'm not afraid of it, you know. But that's actually and it's, I forget that people have that too.
Yeah, everyone has that.
Everyone has that. That makes me want to love people even more. Like, damn, I can see that child in you. Oof. If I can.
Yeah.
But people let go really.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Any other questions?
Do you have a ritual when you get in the studio, or?
No. I go there and I'm like, okay, please, whoever possessed me, help me, what's next? You know? A lot of the time I go there and I nap. Sometimes I paint, I read, I write. But that blackout that I keep calling, it's not consistent, really.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Running off what he said, what's your favorite version of you when you're painting? Like, I make music. I love making music when I'm sad because I feel like I do the best work. What's your favorite version of you when you're painting?
Oof. I really have to like go back into my vault and like remember a good studio day. And if I'm blacked out and I'm a little conscious and I can acknowledge that I'm making art, it's when there's enough space on the floor and enough mess going on, but not too messy. And I can kind of go from here and here and sort of dance. And I play good music and I'm dancing and I'm alone and I don't hear anything but my thoughts, and I talk to myself a lot, like out loud. I like it though. And yeah, it's when I talk to myself out loud. That's weird though, because people that talk to themselves out loud, my sister does it a lot. That something's going on in their wiring that's like who is that really? Because who's your inner voice? My girlfriend tells me she has a male voice. It's not weird. My inner voice, I hear myself, my squeaky ass voice. But when I talk, I don't know, it's so weird. It's when I talk to myself in the studio. That's a good studio day. And good music, and I'm dancing.
Any questions? Alrighty, we're gonna end it here then. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.
End the show and cut.